Welcome to the first edition of the Lost and Foundry Show for 2025. We had an incredible 2024.
It was an amazing year.
It felt like a year where a lot of the things we put into motion reached maturity.
That's right.
So like the Give and Grow weeks kind of hit their stride last year, and we saw graduation numbers rise like we were hoping they would.
Absolutely.
And one of the things we're working on now is there's kind of the opposite end of the lever. People are leaving faster, so our intakes, but we've even started some new initiatives now where the intake numbers are starting to get back up to where they were. So we're learning and we're growing, and graduation numbers, I think they rose by like 40 last year from the year before. So, I mean, an incredible year. We really hit our stride on a lot of things. And of course, that means putting more things into motion, shaking things up even more.
Continuously improving.
That's right. So one of our core values is we continuously improve. That's part of it. So we're really excited about 2025, and we have the year theme today that we're going to talk about. And, you know, we can't share everything that's happening at the Foundry, and there are things to come, but we're really excited about what's happening here, where things are going, the things that God's laid on your heart, starting with the theme this year. And we can't wait to share them all with you. We're going to share some of it today with the year theme and what it means, right? We'll get to that in a second. Hearts of Hope is coming up, and I would love for you to be a part of it. Hearts of Hope is our event all about our Foundry Women's Center and about raising funds, support, recognition for all the things happening here at the Foundry Women's Center. So if you're a community leader, you own a business, or maybe you're an incredible volunteer and you want to show your support and show out at this event, we would love for you to be a part of it. You can go to foundryministries.com/HOH to get started. I'll put a link in the description. We all love this event. It's kind of the event we put our most storytelling passion into.
That's right.
And so if you want to learn more about the Foundry, any of that stuff, you can go to foundryministries.com and find all the information there about what's going on, what we're doing. And, you know, at the women's event, we have our, you know, the development departments here in the Women's Center, so we hear their stories a lot. And so it's always great to reshare those stories to people in the community. I'm always surprised by people just really don't know sometimes what we are, who we are, what we do. And so getting to engage with people in the community and sit down for more than the maybe 60-second scroll you got or 5-second scroll you got on social media, to have that moment to share.
Okay.
So, and that's what this podcast is all about. So we're glad that you're sitting down and getting a deeper dive into the Foundry. So we're about to get into what the year theme is. Mike is going to deliver it. I would like to share some stats and numbers from 2024. So all of your support, all the volunteering and other work that you've done has generated this. So one of our biggest spikes was counseling hours. We are up to 12,000 counseling hours last year. So those are one-on-one sessions where a counselor sits down with a participant and they deep dive into all the inner workings of what's happening in their life. Then we rose by a few thousand hours last year. So something we did a great job at raising up. Counseling is really important. You know,
For sure.
a lot of times you see this like media image of counseling as like a big group of people and they're all talking, and small groups are important, but it feels like those real breakthrough moments will happen in counseling and one-on-one sessions where they can really deep dive into those life-controlling issues.
For sure.
And so counseling hours, very good. Case management hours, we're up to 19,500 hours. We served 240,000 meals last year. Everybody talking about the price of food. Wow, 240,000. You know, every 10 cents that goes up is like whoom for us. So 240,000 meals. Great job by Ashley and the team over there, and they do a great job with the logistics and all that. And that is a hard job, and they're doing really good. Employment readiness hours of 220,000. A lot of that is in thanks to our partner, Hope Inspired Ministries, who's putting on a great curriculum down there. And when we first started this initiative, you know, it felt like we could get some benefit out of having this partner here. It's a lot of work, but some benefit to get out of it. I would have not believed the amount of benefit we've got out of it. And many times when a participant walks across the stage, one of the things they talk about is, I never had an interview before, and I got to do that with him.
That's right.
Or I never filled out a resume before. Him did that for me.
Yeah.
And so this program and being involved with it, I think has really put us at the next level of setting people up for success. Another we set others up for success at the Foundry.
For sure.
And him has been a great partner for that, and we love that collaboration. Our education and spiritual enrichment hours were 150,000 hours, which is incredible. And that number's obviously easy to make big because we can put a lot of people in one room and educate them at once. So, but that's a great number. Here are the two numbers, though, right? The two numbers. I wrote these down backwards. We had 169 graduates last year.
Yeah.
I would have never imagined we'd be this many graduates.
That's it.
And just talk about walking across the stage and how big of a deal that is.
Yeah. So I think the fact that there are almost 170 people finished something in their life. They completed what they set forth and set out to do at the beginning. And it's not just about walking across the stage. It's not about getting a diploma. It's about, you know what? I've literally changed the course and direction of my life. I am going in a very different way today as I complete this as I was going when I started this journey. And so when you start to see those numbers rise and increase, you kind of look behind the scenes to kind of see there are a lot of moving parts that kind of make that kind of result happen. And, we couldn't do it without the staff that the Lord has blessed us with here at the Foundry. I mean, it's some amazing people here. Really, the professionals in the room are the staff here at the Foundry. And so when you see that number of people being successful every year, you're talking about generational change, right? Some of those folks, especially some of the younger men and women that come to our program, their children will never know an addict parent. Their parents, their aging parents, will at some point be able to pass away knowing that they're going to see their child again, right? That there's peace in that because they have changed their life. And so that's why that number's so special.
Yeah. I don't think there's any other signifier as a stage in the Foundry that's quite as remarkable as that finishing signifier of long-term success.
Right.
So getting someone across that stage, and like you said with the staff members, you might think that the numbers on graduations is a marker of how fast we could push people through the program, like speeding things up, but really that number goes up best when staff members are equipped and they do a good job with the individuals, and people don't have to extend their time here. And obviously there's only so much we can do, that a lot of it's in God's hands and in their own personal hands.
Right.
But we haven't done anything to really rush the program or change anything like that. We just keep improving and 1% a day. And it's been incredible here. Here's another number that we're incredibly proud of: 116 baptisms. Yeah. I mean, that's just awesome.
I have a share with some guys this past week, that same number. And I said, but let me explain to you what that means. That's not every person that made a decision to follow Christ. That's the 116 men and women that said, I want to go beyond just the point of making a declaration that I'll follow Jesus, in taking what we would call the next step of their spiritual journey, and that's water baptism. And I explained to these guys earlier last week that when you have a life change in a rehab, you can take that one to the bank. Because you want to talk about some skeptical people, some people that have said, you know what, I've been down that road before. So you're talking about what I would call a real true sense of turning the page, that I've done a 180, that I've said, I'm no longer going this way, I'm going this way. So when you can measure that by 116 men and women saying, I've decided to follow Jesus, and now I'm taking that step to make it public, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, and baptisms are this incredible statement of belief, right? And speaking of belief, we have a New Year theme that's along those lines.
That's
We're
right.
talking about, before we get to the theme, we're about to get to it. When you develop a theme, like, what does that process look like for you? What are you thinking about?
Yeah. And so, Hunter, I usually start about August or September, start thinking about the theme for next year. And what that looks like is when I'm sitting in my own church, I'm just listening to things that resonate in my heart about the direction and the focus of where we're going at the Foundry the coming year. Usually about October, November, December, it kind of starts taking some shape. And it's amazing, when I'm reading something in the scriptures or in a conversation, there'll be certain things that people say, and I believe God works that way. We call them confirmations, and that happens. And it's one of those things where it's not like this big aha moment, but knowing where I believe that the Lord has set, scriptures say that our steps are ordered. If the Lord is ordering our steps, then the path is not a surprise. And it may be new and fresh to us, but the path is kind of set in motion. And so as I've been looking forward to 2025, I kind of know where we're heading as an organization, as a ministry, where I'm going with teaching and training with our staff. And so when you see these words, and they're usually a singular word or sometimes a phrase that gives us a theme for the year, those kind of things resonate with the way you're already heading and the way you're already going. And that's kind of how that whole process works for me.
Yeah, we've got an internal joke that when you reveal a theme, it becomes prescriptive in a way. We always hope it's positive because you don't know.
That's right.
Hopefully you never have a theme like this, then a theme to be measurable or something like that, because we know it's about to happen.
That's right.
So I've got a couple of themes here, our past themes.
Yeah.
I would like to show you one, and you say what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about that thing.
Okay.
So we're going back to, let's go back to one of the first ones.
Man, the year of focus. Is it one word, or can I kind of share it?
You just share a little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
give me a couple seconds.
Yeah, the year of focus was when we were in a stage of ministry where we were trying to kind of narrow down what we were doing, because we were doing a lot of stuff. It was all good stuff.
Yeah.
But we were not really laser focused on one singular thing that we could offer the men and women that walk through our doors. And that year, we literally kind of stopped doing a lot of things to where we could focus on being the best faith-based substance abuse recovery program we could possibly be.
That's almost the precursor to Give and Grow Weeks in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
6-7 years ago.
Or we just kind of did this. Let's focus in and get good at what we do.
Yeah. All right. So we got.
Man, one of my favorites, the year of kindness. I remember the morning I revealed that theme to our staff. They didn't know this, but at the end of that thing, end of that time together, as everybody was dismissed, we had 3 or 4 staff members holding boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts, and everybody walked out grabbing donuts, and it was like just it wasn't a random act of kindness, it was an intentional act of kindness. And we spent the entire year, this was the friendliest place you've ever been during that year. We may need to revisit that from time to time. But
Well, we're just going to start looking up synonyms for kindness.
Kindness,
Just
sure.
refreshing it. All right. So we got
yeah, the year to elevate.
elevate.
That's when we really started kind of, that was COVID year. That was 2020.
Yeah.
And so, in January, when we revealed that theme, we had no idea what was coming that year.
Yeah.
And so before, I can say for sure that by the end of that year, the Foundry had elevated who we were and how we were doing things to a different level. But man, we had to go through a ditch to get back to the other side of that hilltop.
Yeah.
And so the year to elevate kind of had a meaning that we really didn't foresee throughout that
Yeah.
year.
I mean, obviously, sometimes you have to tear things down to the foundation before you can build them up taller.
Which is exactly what happened in 2020.
All right. Then 2021.
Yeah, so the year of gratitude, that was actually our 50th anniversary year. And so we just said, you know what, we're going to focus on being grateful. Obviously, gratitude toward the Lord, gratitude to the men and women that have served this ministry faithfully as volunteers and donors and supporters. And so it was just a year where we said, we're going to just make this an external thing to where the gratitude just flows out in every direction in our 50th year.
Yeah. And we have a lot of these.
We do. The year of new beginnings.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love that one because that was the year where we really started engaging and rolling out the Give and Grow Weeks and reshaping how we kind of did recovery, what I would call fine-tuning it.
Yeah.
And so I knew it was going to be a year of new beginnings. But what I love about themes is it also has not just a corporate feel, but it has an individual feel. Every one of these. That's kind of one of the check marks that I have to walk through when I'm coming up with the theme as well. But it was about the men and women that walk through our doors were having a new beginning in their life as well.
And you talk about fine tuning. I work with sound guys and their soundboards and stuff. And
Yeah.
you'd be amazed at how the tiny turn of one one little knob on the soundboard can have these huge impacting effects.
guarantee it.
I'm really bad at sound mixing, as you probably could tell by listening to the podcast. And sometimes you get one of those professionals back there and they'll twist 5 or 6 little knobs a little bit, and you're like, whoa, everything sounds so clear and great. I could have never done that. So we did a little bit of fine tuning around here. It's like, whoa, this is how recovery should be for everybody. That's
right. That's right.
It was a very good Give and Grow weeks. All right, last year's or year before last.
Yeah, the year to overcome. As all of these things were happening, I knew that there were going to be challenges. And so I felt like the word itself, overcome, was a corporate rally theme, a rally cry that said, hey, we're going to have some challenges as we've turned everything we knew for all of these years upside down to kind of make it better. And so that was kind of our focus, that as these challenges arise, we're going to overcome them together. And obviously you can see the implications on an individual level.
Yeah.
That it was the year for me to overcome. So,
All right, last year's.
and so the year of his goodness.
What do you think we got out of last year from the year of his goodness?
So I think I could tell you what I personally gained.
Yeah, okay.
Was a sense of realizing, it is simple. It's not that profound, but that God truly is good to me. And on a personal level, we all kind of carry spiritual baggage with us that especially some of the men and women that we serve, that God's out to get me because I've done so many things bad and wrong. And to realize the true essence of God is his goodness, that he is so good that he created the dynamic and the system, the process of Calvary, where he said, I'm going to send my son to pay the price that you could never pay for yourself. Well, how can you say anything other than the fact that God is good? And so for me personally, I think that it was a deeper revelation and understanding that, you know what, God truly is a good Father. So,
All right, and so this year's theme is?
yeah, so 2025, we are declaring that our theme will be the year to believe.
Yeah. So you got that from Ephesians chapter 1, verse 18 through 19. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, in fact, let me just read that, Hunter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like reading it out of the New Living Translation just because of the kind of the wording.
Yeah.
It says, I pray that your hearts will be flooded with light so that you can understand the confident hope. And man, I got locked in on those 2 words, confident hope. For me, sometimes hope is, I got my fingers crossed,
Yeah.
right? I hope that this is going to go the way I want it to go. But when you insert Christ into that dynamic, it is a confident hope. It's not a wishy-washy, it may happen. It is, I can rest assured, I can be confident in the fact that God is who he says he is, right? And so this confident hope that he has given to those that he has called, his holy people who are his rich and glorious inheritance. In verse 19, it says, I also pray that you will understand the incredible greatness of God's power for us who believe in him.
That's a great verse. I think a lot of times a similar verse we use is Philippians, where it's, I can do all things through, and that gets twisted a lot.
It does.
Right. And this is a much better version where it's people who are called to God. We can have a hope that we can believe who he is, and we can do things through him in that way.
That there is a power for living, right? I love that kind of phrase, that there is power available to me, not because I'm good, not because I get it right every day, not because anything that I could do, but there's a power available, great power available to me to overcome temptation, to withstand heartache and heartbreak, and overcome all of these challenges of life because I because I just believe in him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When I think of everything through movie scene terms.
Right.
And because that's who I am. And when I think of hope, I think of like that classic movie scene where someone falls off the edge of a cliff by accident and they grab whatever's there, and it's always a flimsy vine. and they're just like, hope is that vine's going to hold on.
That's right.
That's not God. God isn't a flimsy vine that we're hoping has enough roots to keep us, So that's what I love about this verse is the confident hope that God is the elevator coming up to raise me up to the top.
He's got me.
Yeah, he's got for sure. You're to believe. And so, but believing isn't just about believing in God and he is who he says he is. It's also believing he can do more than we can do with our own powers.
For sure.
And so that's a lot of the motivation going forward is that we have big dreams for the Foundry and where we could be bigger than what we personally think that I can do. It's a bigger dream than I think I can do.
That's right.
But we're saying, God, you hold these dreams in your hands, and to you, it's not a dream; it's a vision for the future.
Right.
And we're going to take that vision for ourselves.
Absolutely.
We believe in you. Yeah.
So Hunter, we believe in all sorts of stuff. I believe that I'm going to live a long life and be healthy and prosperous. Now, sometimes that belief is full of hope and full of faith and full of trust. I think those are the three building blocks that got me to this idea of the year to believe. That hope, faith, and trust are the dynamics required to truly believe something. Because we believe it in our mind, then ultimately I believe we believe it in our heart, and then we begin to live like we believe. For example, something simple for us is we believe that God has a purpose for our life. That is a kind of a staple of being a follower of Jesus, that he has a plan and a purpose for my life. Well, if I think that way and start believing that in my thought life, then I start believing it in my heart. Well, then what happens? Then I start living in such a way that I believe God has a purpose and a plan for my life. And so that's kind of the dynamics of believing. It's not just words that I say. It's a way that I begin to fashion my thoughts around. And it's something that gets deep inside of who I am. And then I start living it out. I start practicing it.
Yeah. So talk about, a lot of this that we've been talking about is for staff members, right? It's believing about what God is in our lives and the work that we're doing. Now you'll present this to the participants.
Right.
How does belief look different for a participant in this year thing?
Yeah, there's some similarities for sure. And like I said earlier, I believe each theme every year is both what I would call corporate for all of us, but then also very individual. And so for the men and women that walk through our doors that we would refer to as participants, and I love the fact that we use the word participant because some recovery ministries call them their clients, or they call them students, or they call them residents. And for us, that word participant carries weight because we don't want to give you a hand up or a hand out. We want to give you a handshake, right? That we want to partner with you as you participate in your own recovery. And so for us, what does that theme look like for a participant? It goes back down to the same thing of believing is a personal decision. Just because I say I believe in God does not mean that all the answers come flooding in to all of my life's questions all at one time. But what it does for a program participant, it says, I believe because of who he is and what he's done for me and in me, that there's a better way for living, that there's a better way, that I don't have to go back to the same places that I've come from. I don't even have to look back over my shoulder ever again. But I believe that there is a future and a hope when I trust in him. It's a confident hope.
That's right.
And that's what I believe is the message for the individual person participating at the Foundry in 2025, that all I have to do is just believe. And there is power for living when we believe in him.
Yeah, that's right. So you call this a corporate, theme and it's individual for the participants. I would like to invite the Foundry family into this theme today. So talk a little bit about how someone watching today is part of this Foundry family, what you would encourage them to do with the theme this year.
Yeah, so first of all, just embrace it. And I would say just live in Ephesians 1, right? Verse 18 and 19. And there's so many translations and so many layers in different translations of those two verses. And I would say make those a part of a daily declaration to, to, to where it becomes just very personal to you. Because here's the truth for everybody that's watching this podcast. We're going to have an opportunity in 2025 to doubt, to wonder, right? Is this really working? Are things turning out like I'd hoped they would? And sometimes they don't. And that's a whole nother theme, right? That sometimes my way and God's ways aren't always designed, don't always line up.
Yeah.
And I would say for the extended Foundry family to understand and embrace the idea that there is power for living when we believe in Him. And I had a guy tell me one time, he said, "Are you believing in God? No, are you following God, or are you asking God to follow you?" And man, that just hit me like a ton of bricks when he said that. And in fact, it fashioned a lot of the way I think because it was 15 years ago. And I thought, you know what? I'm not believing in God for the things that I want, that I believe that I need, but I want to believe in Him for who He is, not for who I need Him or want Him to be. That's a message I believe that we all should embrace.
Yeah, one of my major complaints of modern living is that Christian faith has become Americanized in a lot of ways, where, even in churches, and I'm more than guilty of doing this because I'm a marketer and I'm trying to get language a certain way, but we use the word faith journey. Like, we want to help you get to the next step of your faith journey.
Yeah.
And we phrase it in a way that's about the person on their journey, when it's really about God and what He can do through us.
That's right.
And His bigger plan. And if we'll step out in faith, He's called us to believe the bigger vision.
That's right.
And stepping out in faith and doing His will is important, but a lot of times we personalize faith and make it about us and where we're going in the journey and not about where God's taking us.
Yeah. It's true.
I think it would be very helpful it's been helpful for me in that way where, I begging God, like, what's my purpose? Tell me what my purpose is. And it's about me. Like, God, tell me what my purpose is. And personalized. Can you give me a pamphlet, what classes to take, but really it should be about a servant heart and seeing the bigger belief picture and thinking about eternal things. Pretty hard, because I'm a pretty selfish person. So
I love the word that you use, though, journey, right? I believe that is a descriptive term for me that I use often, right? That we're on a journey. And a journey assumes that there's a destination, right? And so assuming and knowing that there's a destination for as Christ followers, that's eternal life. You can kind of see how the idea of belief and trust is intertwined into that.
what's your biggest tip for someone who's struggling with the belief parts, to help them maybe catalyst their journey into something better?
Well, I'll give the advice that I have to give myself pretty regularly and almost on repeat mode. Get out of my own way, right? Because you said you personalize these things. Well, sure we do. That's what we know.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
know us.
That's right.
Right? And we know us, but we have to have faith in Him. And so if you're struggling with this whole idea of believing and trusting, first of all, get out of your own way. Second of all, why would you not, right? What do you have to lose by putting your faith and trust in the AA model, they refer to it as the higher power. I would refer to God as the highest power, that His power is available to us. And there's something special, Hunter, about the sovereignty of God, where it becomes this struggle of, well, if He's already got it all figured out for me, then why do I have to make decisions? And why is it about my mess ups? And and I've got thoughts on it. I've got things that I believe.
We could spend hours talking about that kind of stuff.
But the reality is that's where belief comes in, and that's where faith comes in. That I just have to trust that God is doing something in my life, that He is active, that He is who He says He is. And so, get out of your own way.
What does that look like for you, getting out of your own way?
Getting out of my own way is usually this dynamic between my ears, right? Where it's a mental thing for me that I get in my own way by thinking, well, if I only do this, then this is going to be the beautiful end result. When in reality is I struggle sometimes getting it right, doing the right pieces, saying the right things, treating people the right way, all those different dynamics. But I'm hoping for this result over here. And so getting out of my own way is saying, wait a minute, the pressure really can be off. My job is to be obedient to what I believe God's word says about who I am. And when I find that truth, I have a tendency to kind of get out of my own way and say, all right, less of me, more of Him. Now, if it were easy, the world would be a much better place.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah. For me, it's making the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I hit cruise control on places where I feel like I made it. And whenever you put your life on cruise control, it always gets slower and slower and slower. Yeah. You think you're staying the same, but you're not. So sometimes I have to remember the main thing is the main thing and keep making it the main thing. That's important. All right, that's the year to believe. I hope you're excited about the theme and that you can already see how it's going to move in your life and make your 2025 one of the best years of your life ever. And we're so excited that you're joining the Foundry this year and all the work that's happening here. And I hope that you have an idea of how you might be involved with us supporting the participants here and the incredible life change that's happening. Before I sign off on the podcast, I want to talk about someone very important in my life, and I think their story will impact you as well. My father's father, my grandfather, passed away a couple of weeks ago, and he was an incredible man that I would like to talk about. He's one of those, greatest generation men that's kind of kickstarted who we are as a country today, and then all the good things that we have today. And his father was an addict who was one of those guys who would get odd jobs and disappear for months at a time, but it's really like an addiction cycle thing. And eventually he totally abandoned my granddad and all of his youngest siblings. He was the oldest son, and disappeared and then died at an early age. So he grew up in a lot of ways without a father and an addict. The statistics on children of addicts is very scary.
It's bleak.
Yeah. So if you're a child of an addict, you're much more likely to be an addict yourself and to continue that cycle of addiction for generations. And my grandfather, they were destitute. They had winters where they had very, very little food. And we've got like journal entries that are heartbreaking. He had talk about it a lot. He decided at a young age that he just wasn't going to continue the cycle. And never drank any alcohol, didn't do any drugs. He became a pastor at a young age. And my dad was a rebellious youth, like a lot of us are. But my dad ended up becoming a pastor, in his 20s. And he passed away a few weeks ago, and being here at an addiction recovery facility. And I carry that legacy that he gave to me, beating the statistics. And a lot of times we talk about destiny and what your destiny might be, or that you're destined to do this. And the actions of my grandfather taught me that I don't think destiny exists. God has a plan for you, but you're not destined to go down the bad path you think you're destined to go down. And that if you make the decision to be the God version, the person that God's made you to be, that you can turn the switch for generations. The history, the legacy that I could be living out today is continuing the cycle of addiction that my great-grandfather had set out. But instead, I'm carrying on a tradition of pastors. My grandfather raised 2 pastor kids, and then I got to live in a blessed household, not just blessed in belief, but a prosperous family. I get to live out that legacy because of a decision that my grandfather made when he was young about what he was going to do with addiction in his life. So if you're a graduate or you're someone who's thinking about what does addiction look like for me in my life, my encouragement would be is look 1,000 generations in the future and decide which direction your legacy could set forth for that 1,000 generations. For my grandfather, it became a destiny of evangelism and the gospel and helping other people. But there are others who don't make that choice, and it's generations of despair and hopelessness. You get to make that decision. That's the great thing about our futures. We get to decide what they're going to be, and we get to choose to leave legacies that are just incredible. And it's, like we talk about legacy, and it's like Bill Gates, like building big companies, or Jeff Bezos, like building companies and leaving legacies, or they're giving billions of dollars. But the effect that my grandfather's legacy has on me is much greater than anything Jeff Bezos or Donald Trump or anybody's going to leave for me.
Absolutely.
And so you can be a generation breaker, and that's what that means. And I hope you learn from my grandfather in that. But I mean, we're looking forward to 2025. And
It's gonna be a great year.
yeah, and we're glad that you're on this journey with us, and we hope you tune in next time for the Lost and Foundry show.